Hello, this is Step Ahead with Ernie Rivera. I am your host, Ernie Rivera. All right, let's talk about getting into a top engineering school. How do we do that, especially with a low GPA? What are we going to do? I know. Okay, so we will talk about all of that in just 1 minute. Stay tuned. So now, I can only talk from my own personal experience, and I have a lot of personal experience to share. Well, let's start off. I think a lot of you know that I did get a degree in. I got a BFA in acting from a school in Los Angeles, and I rolled with that quite some time. But after a while, especially after watching this movie, I won't get into it too much. But this movie, World's End, I'm like, oh no, I can't continue doing everything that I'm doing. So I said that I am going to do something else. I'm going to start doing something that adds value to the world, which translates as to uh, security for me. And I did. What I did was I re-entered school in my late 20s, and I entered at a community college. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. I knew roughly in the vein. I said, if Ernie, if you can't act, what are you going to do full time? What is there anything else you can imagine yourself doing full time? And I said, yes, yes, there is. I was always very interested in the sciences, so I entered as a physics major, and I started taking physics classes. But a couple things changed my mind. I realized that you would need to do extensive graduate school in order to make a living doing physics. That was part of it. And I realized that in engineering, while you can do graduate school and while it will give you a lot more money down the line, it is unnecessary to enter into graduate school while performing as an engineer. All you need is your bachelor's. So I switched from physics to engineering, which is kind of a lateral switch because in order to be an engineer, you actually need to take math up to differential equations. That means you need to take all the calculus and you need to take the differential equations. You also need to take 3 calculus-based physics classes. So I was right in line. It didn't hold me back a step. But I needed to think about where I was going to transfer to, and and so I had a few schools in mind. Um, a lot of them, after my experience with art school, I decided I wanted to go to a state school or something like that. I applied to a few around here. I applied to Cal State LA. I applied to um, Cal State Long Beach, California State University Long Beach, um, Fullerton, Fullerton University, as well as Cal Poly. The whole time I knew that I wanted to go to Cal Poly a little bit more than some of the others for many reasons. Cal Poly has a great reputation. It's known as a university that's it's very well recognized for transforming one's lives. Let me explain what I mean by that. You see, at Cal Poly, you are charged very little money, but when you graduate, the graduates of the school end up making decent bank, and that's really good. It's helping people who have never had the opportunity before to take care of themselves financially. It's for the first time in their lives. It's offering them the ability to take care of themselves. It's raising them to a new tax bracket. It's doing so. It's changing families' lives, and I really appreciated that. Separate from that, Cal Poly Pomona has an excellent reputation for engineers. You see, in California, in the state of California, 1 out of every 14 engineers working is a Cal Poly graduate, and that was just amazing to me. I thought that was really spectacular. And so that was where I put my eggs in my basket. Now, let me explain how to get into the school like that, especially considering that I won't tell you my GPA exactly, but my GPA was roughly two-thirds of some of my classmates. Two-thirds of some of my classmates. So how did I get in? That's a very good question. Well, before I was considering these local schools, I was actually considering a number of private schools. And in order to get into these private schools, you needed to take the SATs or the ACTs. I chose to take the ACTs, and I scored quite well in math and science. So that did me a little bit of a favor. I submitted my ACTs more recently when I applied to the local schools. I I submitted my ACTs when I applied to Cal Poly, so they know that I was above average when it came to these test scores. Now, was there anything else I did? Yeah, there was a lot else I did. There was a program called the EOP, the Educational Opportunity Program, and this is a program that targets traditionally underrepresented underrepresented people. You see, for example, if your family makes less than blank, blank, and blank a year, you might qualify for the EOP. And I thought it was a great opportunity. Not only does it make it just a hair easier to get into these schools, but it also gives you counseling opportunities. It gives you a lot of opportunities for, well, let's be honest, for them to hold your hand through. And maybe that's what I needed. But I'll take whatever help I can get as long as I get to my end goals. I'm not going to be too proud to take help. So I applied for the EOP, and in order to apply for the EOP, I needed a number of recommendations from teachers. Now, you see, I had a teacher, a math teacher, who I had been working with the whole time I was in community college, and he was a friend and an ally of mine. Um, we built up a relationship, and he had quite a lot of faith in me because of my willingness to go through the system no matter how far back I started. And I started far back real quick. When I re-entered school, I had to start in trigonometry. Now from trigonometry, you go to pre-calculus. From pre-calculus, you go to calculus 1, to calculus 2, to calculus 3, to differential equations and linear algebra. That's where I am right now. But that's not where I started. I started way back. And so I was able to cultivate this relationship with this teacher who became quite a fan of mine. He was rooting for me to succeed, and that's sometimes what we need. We need allies and acolytes and people who will be fighting for our side. And so he submitted a recommendation for me, and I also got a recommendation from my physics teacher, which aided me greatly, and it got me into this program, and this program made it just a hair easier to get into the school. And I was willing to take whatever I could take. Now, let me say this. There are a number of majors which are considered impacted. Impacted means they're harder to get into because there are too many applicants and not enough space. I got into an impacted major, electrical engineering. Now, in order to get into an impacted major, it's a little bit harder than the base requirements to get into a school. For instance, the base requirements to get into Cal Poly Pomona are a 2.0 GPA. That's a C average. And that's basically as low as you can get while still graduating from a community college. So, was my GPA that low? It was not quite that low. How low was my GPA? Well, in order to get into an impacted major, you need to have a minimum of not a 2.0, but a 2.5. So I will say that my GPA is somewhere between 2.5, which is the minimum required, and 3.0, which is a B average. My grade point average falls in somewhere between that. that's considered very low for a lot of these programs. Well, 2.5 is the minimum GPA. It's not unusual for people to have a 3.5 to a 4.0. So I was competing with people who had GPAs a whole section higher than mine. Mine was, again, about 2/3 of what theirs was, which is why I applied for the EOP program with the recommendations, which is why I took the ACTs, which is why I did everything I could. I wrote the best essay I could. Not only that, but while I was at community college, I racked up a number of units, and they require you meet a certain number of classes. Not number of classes, that's saying it wrong, but they require you to meet specific classes in order to get in as well. Well, I met all those specific classes because I was at community college for a minute. Now, what specific classes? In California, they call it the Golden Four. You need to have science classes, you need to have English classes, you need to have quantitative reasoning classes, a number of classes in order to qualify. More than that, for engineering specifically, you are also required to have classes in, for instance, calculus. You needed to finish your calculus series. You needed to finish your physics series. And there were a number of other classes. Now, I finished those at community college, so I had a leg up on other people who did not. And that made all the difference. I finished all the classes, including some of the classes that they didn't recommend, or excuse me, the classes that they didn't require, but they just recommended. I took those as well at community college. I took all the classes I could possibly. I did the EOP program. I took the ACTs and I got in. And so I'm telling you, anyone who wants to be in a top-rated engineering program, which I got into Cal Poly. I got into Cal Poly Pomona. So I implore you, if you're really interested in science, if you're really interested in engineering, there are many things you can do in order to get into one of these top-rated schools, even if you can't make the GPA, which can be difficult when you're doing all calc-based classes. So please don't let it discourage you. You keep marching forward, you keep stepping ahead, you keep doing whatever you need to do, and you can get there. I am guaranteeing you can get there. And how do I know? Because I got there too. And so I thank you for watching. I ask you to like and subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you get the new videos right away. And take care of yourselves. I hope this video was helpful. Take care. Bye.